welcome to the 8th episode of the Friends of Mine podcast. Not quite sure why I started it like that, but
yeah, we even discussed it being the 8th episode before you came on.
Yeah, and I still was like, So we're going to actually dive. Well, I'm making this choice on both our behalves. We're going to deep dive into this this week with a question to you, because we briefly spoke about it earlier on, off air, so to speak. And you were saying that, and you've mentioned it on podcast before, but that you've been really struggling with anxiety today, and mostly around the fact that you are worrying that you've upset people.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering whether you think there might be something in your past or sort of in your childhood that in some ways may be bringing this up now, or whether it's a sort of accumulation of different things.
I couldn't honestly tell you like what it is, what brings it on, what makes me. I think when I'm not good at being in my own company, I think is one thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of work at the moment is me on my own, so I don't think that necessarily helps. I think I am a people person, so I think the moment when this morning was quite busy, so I didn't really have time to sit and think. Then when you get time, do you know what, does that make sense? And then I start thinking, and it's like I've said before, I know people are busy, I'm busy, I'm one of the worst people for not messaging someone back. But when you message someone and they don't reply, and you're like, well, did I say something when I saw them on the weekend to upset them? Have I? And I know that I haven't, because I can't even say that I was drunk on the weekend because I wasn't drinking. So It can't even be like, oh, did I say something drunk, or did I? And I couldn't tell you what it is. I couldn't tell you what
originally started.
Yeah, not really. I know from having having counselling before, they sort of have said like a lot of it might come from not like attachment issues, but like losing your mum as young as you did, and I can't think of the phrase they used for it. And I suppose it's probably what we touched on before about if I love you if I love you, then I really love you, and probably sometimes can feel a little bit overbearing sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think it sort of stems from you worrying that something bad's going to happen to the relationship, friendship?
Yeah.
You're sort of worried that because you're so worried about relationships breaking off and losing people, it's like you constantly worry that you've done something that's gonna trigger that and cause someone to leave you effectively, or break the friendship off.
I think massively so. And I also know as well, like when I'm doing it, I can get myself like, I know as well, I'm telling myself like, what are you doing? Like, you've not done anything to upset them because you saw them 48 hours ago, or you spoke to them on, so you know you've not done. Well, I think you just can't almost help yourself out your mind.
That's good that you're recognising it, though.
Yeah, and I bet. I know especially during COVID, I think obviously everyone struggled during COVID, but it was even worse then because you weren't even seeing anybody. It was literally work, same as everyone else. I was quite fortunate that I wasn't working from home. I was still going to work, which some people prefer working from home, but me personally, I prefer to be, again, in and around and seeing people where possible. But during COVID, I was really bad. I'd sort of send someone a message, wouldn't reply, and I'd go and lay in bed for 3 hours thinking, just almost like crippling anxiety. And then they message you back, and you go, and even then, I know when I was like that, I think to myself, like, what are you doing? Because I do it as well. Like, someone will message, and you'll look at it, and you'll go, I'll reply later, because we're all busy, we all work, we all have stuff on our plate. I don't know what it is, why I'm like it, how to even stop it. I suppose recognising it, like you said, is a good thing. But yeah,
just recognising, because it must come a little bit from the fact that, like you say, you feel like you've, say, pissed someone off. But maybe a little bit as well as you can just think to yourself, well, A, everybody in some respects at some point is going to piss people off. Like you're never going to go through life not pissing people off.
No.
And also that it's okay. Like it's human. Like you shouldn't judge yourself for the fact that you could have the ability to piss people off because it's part of human nature. Isn't it? Like you're never going to be the 100% perfect friend, boyfriend, family member who's never going to piss his friends off. So it's about, kind of, and it's something I've been trying to do recently. Is like coming to terms with and making sort of, I guess you could argue, friends with that part of yourself that's not, that has the ability to piss people off.
Yeah. I think sometimes it doesn't. Some days it doesn't bother me. So I can message, for example, and I'm just using you as an example. I could message you one day, and you could read it and not reply straight away. It wouldn't bother me. You could be short because, as you've acknowledged yourself sometimes, and I am as well sometimes, we're all quite, if we're busy or just not in the mood to chat, we can all be short and not bother me. But then, for example, I played football on a Monday night, and I made a comment when we were playing football that was meant as a joke, and the guy sort of half laughed. And it bugged me. The whole week, it bugged me until I saw him again the week after, and I didn't want to do it over WhatsApp. And I was like, oh, mate, I'm only joking about what I said. And he was like, yeah, I know, like, it's not a problem.
So where it may have, even if it bothered him, it may have bothered him for like 10 minutes, but you...
But it bothered me, like, and I thought, I don't want to WhatsApp him. I don't want to WhatsApp him, like... and I saw him on Monday, he was like, oh, yeah, mate, like, don't worry about it, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? But in my head all week, it was oh, God, like, what if I've annoyed him? What if I've pissed him off? What if he... Do you know what I mean?
And it does just really tie into anxiety, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you find that's a lot? I assume this is the case. But do you find that when your mental health is in the decline, that's when that obviously gets a lot worse? Yeah.
And I always notice as well, it always gets worse. And I think we've touched on it before, like this time of year. So the darker mornings, the darker afternoons, it just generally being a bit colder. I'm always cold anyway, let alone when it's actually cold. And I just think like the general anxiety of life, I think, is just... I mean, even at work, if I know you wouldn't believe it recently, but if I feel like I've even like annoyed someone in authority, like that will bother me as well, or someone I work with.
Oh yeah, definitely that.
If I walk in, like even in passing, like, and I've touched on it before about, you go past and you say, "Oh, morning," and they're not. And I'm a miserable kid in the morning, like, so I know that some people need that space in them. But if I go like, "Oh, morning," and they're a little bit off of me, rather than just thinking, probably a bit tired or busy or mind's elsewhere. Again, we all do it. I think, well, what have I done? And almost have to like go back again like 10 minutes later just to check that they're all right. Like, how are you, mate? Yeah, I'm all right. And then it's just. Yeah, I don't even know.
It's funny you say that, like that example about at work, because I did that. I think I spoke about it on Saturday. I'm not sure if you were part of the conversation or not, but I spoke to one of our other friends about it. Like something happened at work to me the other day, and one of the higher ups moaned about something that literally, like, I knew had nothing to do with me. He was probably just pissed off and taken out on me, but I still took it personally, and bothered me. So even though like. It's like literally like I did not do this thing and he moaned about it. It's still, because he moaned at me about it, still bothered me. Instead of walking away and being like, well, I know that wasn't me, so sod him. Because I cared about what he thought of me and I didn't want him to think that it was possible for me to mess up. But I must admit, I did, like you were saying, you've been recognised. Like I did recognise it myself, which I think is you're opening some sweets. I'm
trying, mate.
As quietly as
not
possible.
Successfully. I'll open them at the end.
No, crack on.
Go on. Sorry, you were saying.
Even though, like I managed to.
Well, I'm sorry to our listeners. I'm opening some sweeties. So I'm just very easily. Yeah, go on.
That's fine, mate.
Go on, mate.
It adds some like ambient noise to the background. Like I managed to recognise it, which I think is such a huge step, because I found that it didn't last as long. I know for a fact that if I was more unconscious to the fact that I was letting this bother me, it would have lasted maybe double, maybe ridiculous, like you, like it could have lasted a week. Like I could go back into work tomorrow, back in the day, if I was really unconscious of the fact, and it would have been like still bothering me then. When I go in, like say work tomorrow, when I see him, I'm not still going to be bothered about it because I've recognised it, I've analysed it, I've realised.
Yeah.
And this is something, again, I've got from a lot of like books and people I've listened to and on podcasts and stuff. But it's just that thing of when something triggers you like that it's usually a reflection of work you've got to do in yourself.
Yeah.
So anytime anyone bothers you, even if someone comes up to you and starts swearing at you and giving you loads of abuse and that's still something that you've got to work on yourself, because they're just opening their mouths and air's coming out. It's going in your ears, it's causing a vibration, and you're interpreting the message, and then you're connecting it to these things that happened in your past where maybe, well, I mean, I suppose with that example, it's natural if someone comes swearing at you, but you see what I mean? Like, you put like a story behind that, and oh my God, they're having a go at me, I must be a bad person, or if someone has a go at your work, I must be terrible at my job. But realistically, they said some words and you've let that bother you. Do you know what I mean? Like, a cat wouldn't hear another. Actually, I'm speaking about cats if I know. But for example, like, I don't know, say a tree fell down in the garden. That makes a big noise, but you're not going to interpret that as something.
That is not. Yeah. But I even though I used to play football on a Saturday, for example, like someone would.
Sorry, I just realised that me chewing on this lollipop's probably getting picked up on the mic as well. We're really sorry, guys.
It's really unprofessional.
We're so unprofessional.
I can't believe it's my. But even like when I used to play football, I used to have like arguments with lads I play football with, and would let it bother me for like 3 days. And you think, like, why? Like, we all, especially in like a competitive environment where you all want to win, like, but I'd let it bother me. I'd go home, would let it bother me, and I couldn't tell you why and where it's all come from. But I think a lot of it probably is. I think they call it not a lot of abandonment issues, but I think that's what they can label it as. Is you're almost worried that is something going to happen again, which is probably, like I've said to you before, there were times where, as a friend, people will probably go, at times, and at all times, if you ask my mates, they've probably gone, "Okay, give me a chance, mate." Do you know what I mean? And it's not me deliberately do it. It's almost like an out-of-body experience. Like, I'm doing it, and I can look at myself as I'm doing it and go, "You're being paranoid, mate." And it almost is like a form of like paranoia, I suppose. Yeah,
it might be something like you can speak to like a therapist, or even like Google it, like about tools you can use when you first have that thought of recognise it, where you can bring yourself back down into your body as such.
Back into the room.
Back into the room, as you say. Because there is, like you say, there's that disconnect. I think it is really good when you recognise it, but I find sometimes when you're, say, like we're saying, out of your body and looking at you doing something like that, it can be really hard to stop yourself. It's almost like a runaway train. You're watching your body and your words and your mind doing something, and then there's this other part of you, like we'll call like the witness, who witnesses it and is like, come on, Dean, what the hell are you doing?
And I do a lot. I almost like, especially afterwards, like once I got home today, sort of when the dogs came back and I had a chance to sort of almost like, I suppose, like reflect on the day, I was almost like annoyed at myself for letting myself get like that. So I thought you were going to tell me it's not been recording for a second.
No, sorry. No.
So yeah, I think it's definitely probably something, like you said, I suppose I've got better on because I can now recognise it. But I think almost recognising it in some ways makes it worse, because I know that I'm overreacting and that there's probably nothing. Whereas when I suppose wasn't as switched onto it, although the anxiety was probably worse. I'm anxiety now. I've got anxiety and anger. These two before.
Yeah, no,
it was only the anxiety side of things.
But then that's, I suppose, where that, like we said before, like that, or like I labelled it a minute ago, that witness part of you. That's when it needs to kind of start recognising its own humanity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's when you need to turn that part and say, I know other Dean is doing this and worrying about this and being paranoid. He needs to know that he's only. Do you know what I mean? You can sort of almost like talk to yourself, but it is so difficult.
Yeah, I think everyone suffers with an element of it. I mean, we won't name drop, but a friend of ours said, I've had conversations with them before where they have tried to make contact with someone or messaged them and no reply, and have then called their other friend and said, oh, I think I've upset so-and-so. They're not messaging me back, like worked up, and the person's like, yeah, but they're working a night shift.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, and it's that bit where you're like, they're like, oh yeah. Like, and again, I think it's almost like panic stations and worst case scenario.
Yeah. I suppose it's like when that kicks in, it's just the anxiety around the fact you may have pissed someone off just overrides the rational part of your brain, like completely. Yeah. You just go into like fight or flight, like, so you panic and you're fighting to try and find out what they've done.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I guess you could run away. Like maybe some people do the opposite and they're like, oh, fuck him, I'm never going to talk to them again because they've ignored my text. Like, but I suppose it just overrides that rational part of you that says, maybe they're doing this. And like when you talk to a friend, that friend is filling in that rational part of your brain that's just decided to...
I've done it before, like when I go back to when during COVID and like really bad, like Joe would literally say to me like, what are you doing? Like, you're getting yourself so worked up and so, like I said, I'd go and like lay in bed for like 2 hours. It's like, I think it's different. Like before, like I was sort of playing football like 3 times a week, so you almost like that's a release of all the anxiety. I think during COVID we weren't allowed to do anything like that, so I think everyone had their struggles with it. But Joe would say to me, you know, like, you know, people are busy, people have got lives, like, it's fine, don't worry about it. And then literally, you'd get a message like, oh, sorry, mate, I've been at work, I've been sleeping, I've been doing whatever. And then you go, oh, and straight away, like, bang, like, all that. But then you feel like a dick because you spent the last 3 hours, like, getting yourself, into a state.
It's really difficult, and I suppose really the work you'd have to try to do is like, again, recognise where that comes from and address those issues. But I suppose it can be really difficult, can it? Especially with what you've been through and what would have caused that. But yeah, and you also just need to realise that if you have pissed us off, we'll let you know and I'll give you loads of abuse.
Yeah, and I think
I'm joking, by the way.
No, but I think, and I do know that as well. That we're quite like an open group as well. Like, it's like, and I don't think, I mean, we've known each other 13, 14 years. I don't think really as a group of friends anyone's really had a major fallout with anyone. Like, we're all quite, you know, we might bicker like an old couple sometimes, or as not like a family, but never to the stage where like, I can think of like someone's not spoken to anybody. Well, not really anyway. But it's true. Like, just be. I would rather you pick up the phone or send me on WhatsApp and say, like, and again, a lot of people listening to this will know that I'm not. I can be a bit of a nightmare when I'm drunk, but obviously not drinking at the moment or as much because of Jay being pregnant. So there's not even like that bit where you sort of go out on a Saturday and you go, you know, did I say something last night? Because that's the worst feeling. Like, you know, when you wake up the next morning and you just have like, I've done it to you before, like wake up on a Sunday morning and gone, what happened last night? And you were like, yeah, mate, like you were fucked by like 11 o'clock. And that's the worst bit. And then you lay there on the Sunday and little parts of the day, like
trying to piece them
together. I think that's worse. At least now there's, with the not drink, like I said, you were around on Saturday with people around. I think I had one beer Saturday just because I think I've got to try and help myself. And if my anxiety's that high, that beer just doesn't help. It just doesn't. Or it helps for that, I suppose, hour or 2 hours. But the knock-on effects it has for however long later.
It's just delaying the inevitable, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm always the type, like, I've always been a runner-awayer.
Runner-away? You sound like a farmer.
I've always been the type of person who runs away from conflict, I think.
Yeah.
I've noticed that before, like, I'd always, if I'd done something to piss someone off, and I think I've spoken about it before, like even to the extreme, like sometimes I would just like block people, or at least like not necessarily block them, because obviously they'll tell that I've blocked them and they'll be pissed off at me in effect. But what I'd do is mute messages, like not really like with close friends, but with like people, you know,
just people like Tom.
No, it's more like, I don't know, for example, like if I've made new friends, or if I was like talking to a girl and things weren't going my way and we'd had an argument and I'd caused it and pissed them off, I'd mute the messages as a form of like running away. And then I just come to realise like all you're doing is like that's going to come up again. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it could just be that I'll hear their name in passing somewhere. It's going to bring all these feelings back, and I'll probably end up meshing them and saying, "Oh, really? Like I've actually done that.
Yeah.
I've like fucked up, ran away from a situation." And literally, like for one example I could think of, it was literally like what 3 to 5 years later, on Rubbish for Years, I've messaged them being like, "Yeah, sorry about what happened." It's like, why didn't I do that when I first recognised it instead of running away? And I think that's what drink does in a way. You're just delaying something you've got to face. Like you've got to face reality, but you think you're going to get pissed and just delay it for a little bit.
But I run away as well, like from like confrontation, from responsibility. Like, I'm really bad at it. Like even stuff like, you know, mortgage rates going up. Like we've known for the last year that our mortgage is going to go up, and rather than go right, let's have a look. Like, you know, and I obviously I'm aware, but I just think if I just ignore it, like it will go away.
Yeah.
But just ignore it, it will go, and it's obviously not gonna go, and it's life, and it is what it is. But ignore it, you can go. Ignore it, it will go away. You know, I've touched on it before about. I haven't touched on this, but you know, we weren't sure whether me and Joe could have kids, so we tried for a long time, weren't sure we could, and rather than like ever talk about it, it was just I just pretend like. Almost pretend it's not happening. Do you know what I mean? Like laugh, make a joke, and move on. I think I try and do that. I think it was like either run away or laugh about it.
Usually,
it's like a defense, almost like a defense mechanism. Like if in a serious situation, laugh or say nothing and walk away, which I know infuriates Joe because she'll be like, no, we need to talk about this, or you know, this, that, the other, and I just almost brush it. I suppose brush it under the carpet and try and ignore it, which obviously isn't the right thing to do either.
No, it is. I think it seems really. I don't know if it's just I'm seeing it a lot, but really common nowadays. I think for people just to run away from face and stuff. It's something I've always done. I mean, it's when you look at it, like obviously we're talking more non-material fears, or like, you know, like we're talking about fears. You wouldn't call these fears like the same as like fear of heights and stuff and fears of spiders, but when you think like proper phobias, but when you think about it, like what do they say is a good way to cure those type of phobias? Like what do they call it? Explosion therapy. You're scared of spiders, sit in a room or hold a tarantula or a spider and go, you know, if you're scared of heights, go on something really high, you know, it's that type of, and I think maybe that's what we kind of should be doing with the, I'm really struggling with wording it, but you know what I mean, with the non-phobias, but the anxieties, you know, like face, and that's something like I was sort of alluding to a bit earlier that I've been trying to do now. It's just like face those parts of myself that are horrible. Like, you know, okay, people that know me might say that I'm a nice guy in general, but I've done some horrible shit in the past. I've treated people like shit in the past, and I either used to really hold that against myself, or like we were just saying, run away from it. Yeah. No, I didn't do that. And it's like, nah, you've got to face that. You've got to face the fact that you've done some horrible shit. You've got to face the fact that you're suffering with anxiety really bad at the moment, and not just run away from it, because it just doesn't help.
Would you say, so you can cut this part if you want to, you're back in the green?
Yep.
Yeah. First for how are you finding that?
Yeah, good.
Yeah?
Good, got a whole new perspective on it. It's good.
Yeah. Would you find that you're back in like familiar surroundings, you know the place probably better than anyone, and you were there for a while, like do you feel like your anxiety has dropped?
100%, but this again kind of ties into literally what we're just talking about. Like I've done this before, ran away from, I wouldn't say run away, because, you know, there was many reasons why I left the job I was in before. It wasn't just strictly a case of I'm not enjoying this. Like, there was other reasons. But, like, I feel like when I've done this in the past, I've gone to try a new job out, not got on with it, gone back to the big green Asda. It's like, again, like you say, it's going back to familiarity, so it's almost like running away again. It's like this new jobs, and it wasn't the case that the jobs have been like insanely difficult, but I just know that, I just feel at least that they're not for me. But then part of me used to feel so guilty and terrible and like, oh, I'm just running out, like I could try and stick it out for longer, but I'm just going back to something familiar. But again, I'm approaching this one this time with the way I was just speaking about the other stuff with, this is what I'm doing. Like, don't judge yourself for it. Even if I am doing that, let's just say deep down the actual truth of the matter is that I couldn't handle change. So I've gone, okay, like, what is the point of me judging myself about that, if that is the case? You know, and I'm not saying it is, like, there was many reasons. And one of them was a bit of ease, you know what I mean? Like, I'd had issues at other job, left the job, and then was, you know, invited to go back to Asda, so I took it. But it's like I could have held on for another job, so maybe I did do it just for ease. But I'm not judging myself for that.
No, I don't think you should either. You know, I obviously, when I left the first time, because obviously I went back during COVID. First time I left, first 3 or 4 weeks where I was like, shit, have I made the right choice? Because there's that bit of, I was working with my mates, and my best mates, yourself, Tom, Damon, Dan. I think Greg might have still been there at the time. People that you know, it was what you know, and I get that point of view. And even when, you know, working for the company I work for now, I did leave just before COVID and went and work for another company, was made redundant. And again, was offered to go back to the company I'm working for now, and went back. Part of me was, should I find something else? Should I hold out for something else? But again, I went back like nothing could change. So like, it was nearly a year later, but it's what you know, it's who you know. Nothing. It was literally just back to it again.
And when I really think about it as well, like, I think sometimes you just need to give yourself enough space so that you're not dealing with too many issues, too many big things at the same time. And like we spoke about before, unfortunately, like, so much happened last week, the week before, that trying to start a new job, especially because it was one where it was so different to what I was doing before, I really had to like think about it. There's so much to learn. I couldn't really cope with that at the same time. So instead, and maybe it was again running away a bit, because instead of, you know, trying to hold out for the other things to sort out while staying in that job, I did let the other things affect that. But it was like, it's now allowing myself that I don't have to worry about that side of it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
which is
that's familiar. So now I can focus on my mental health, my physical health. You know,
which is a good thing as well. Like I think I always say to Joe, like, I know it's difficult, but let's not stress about what we can't control. So, and says me, you know, says me, like, I can't really talk because I'm not very good at it. But again, you know, we can't control the fact that mortgage rates have gone up, so let's not stress about it. We can't control the fact that the cost of living up, so let's not stress about it. Can't control, even like the wedding, you know, is the weather going to be nice? Yeah, let's hope it is, but we couldn't control. I mean, we were lucky it was, but we can't control it. So if it's nice, brilliant. And that's where I'm trying to be better. Not necessarily that I'm doing it, but that's where I'm trying to be better. And I suppose there's always an element of that with dogs tapping their feet in the background.
And here's our guest for this evening, Charlie.
I suppose there's an element of that. You know, I can't control whether someone texts you back or not. I can't. So there's part of me that just goes, well, you can't control it. Like, don't worry about it. But I do worry about it. And that's, I suppose, the thing that frustrates me again the most with that. But with work as well, like, without saying too much, potentially, looking for a new job potentially, and people say to me, is it a wise idea, new baby, new job, blah, blah, blah. And already that's adding to the anxiety almost, do you know what I mean? So part of me is like, look, you're comfortable where you are, it's easy, but then I don't, how long do you settle for that? Does that make sense? Like I'm not, you don't have to answer it, but do you see yourself wanting to move again in the future? Are you looking at it, we're going to take one day at a time?
Yeah, definitely try and take one day at a time. So I think, again, that's so anxiety inducing when you start worrying about that before you really get that push that you need to. Because, like I was saying, there's other stuff I need to work on. Because the thing is, if let's say in a week's time, I'll just say, right, I've had enough. I wouldn't do this to them anyway, but we're talking, in theory. Let's just say I said I've had enough. If I don't sort out the general anxiety and all the other issues I've got going on, I'm just going to be in the same boat again.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not ready mentally to make a big change like that, what's the point?
No, definitely.
Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to be on this cycle of leaving something familiar, going something unknown, getting scared of the unknown, going back to familiar. So I need to work on that part of me that's scared of change.
Yeah, and I think again, I'm the same. Like always, like a man of routine. Like I've touched on it before. If I've planned my day out like this, and something changes, it throws me off. I think that's probably why doing the role before, when I was looking after like 11, 12 sites, it's probably why my anxiety was so high, because I'd sit down and go, right, this is what I'm going to do today. Never ever worked out like that. It just didn't. So I think that's a bit. I probably am a bit boring. Like, I am a creature of habit. Like, even to the point, stop at the same garage on the way in the morning to get to the stage now where I walk in and they go, morning, you all right? Like, them because you're in there, like, grabbing a Lucasade or a Red Bull, # sponsor us. And again, like, going back to, you know what I mean? going back to like work, when I left this company before, went to another company, was made redundant, and now I'm back. I think the fear of and the anxiety of, but what if I leave again and I get made redundant? Like, there's that fear.
Yep.
And if I do theoretically look at leaving, like, touch wood, like, that doesn't happen, but there is that fear that it could happen. And then so part of me's like, well, just stay where you are. But then I'm like, but do I want to stay here for the next 10? Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, and I think I try to tell myself, like, yeah, there's always a risk. Like,
yeah, there's a risk in everything. Isn't there?
So just do it. But the other part of me is like, why would you? It's steady. It's easy. It's, again, I think that's, I almost have these conflicting conversations with myself, like, during the week of, go on, take the jump. And then the other part of me is like, no, don't do it. It's just a constant battle with myself.
I think you always just need to, what a lot of people do is they wait until the fear of staying in the same place outweighs the fear of change. And I suppose that's my mistake, is sometimes I don't do that.
And is that what happened when you left? Was it the fear of staying in the same place?
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I also don't think that was my fear as well. I think that there was a couple of things, but I think society's thing of like, you shouldn't be this age working in this job made me think I can't keep doing this, which is silly because it was a stable job. And actually, money wise, there's plenty of worse ones out there. Like the job I went to in this, like we were just talking about, was less money. So I didn't do it for the money. I think there was just this thing of like, I shouldn't be doing this at this age. A little bit. And it was also the fact that I really wanted to do the travelling. And in my head, this may sound really stupid, but in my head, I just thought I was going to leave almost immediately, go travelling for a month and come back with this new idea of how the world works. And I was going to be a completely changed man. And it really affected me because when I came back, I had this sort of dissonance between the person I actually really was and who I thought I would be when I come back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that manifested in me trying to just basically be a person I wasn't. And it caused, as you know, like I started seeing someone briefly after I just come back, and I was just a totally different person. I was just trying to be someone I wasn't, to them, for them, and just to everyone, really. I was just like this, I don't know, it's just this weird, I just felt torn between the person I thought I was going to merge into when I come back from this 1 month trip on my own. Do you know what I mean? I just, it sounds so strange. And the person that I still was, because I was still the same person. I had a great time. I got some good insight about things, but I didn't change. Like a month's trip somewhere is not going to change you. Like people can go away for years and years and years, like traveling and come back and be the same person. So yeah, I think it was a mixture of both of those things, really.
But fair play for you doing it, because, and I've said it before, like same to you, same as obviously Dino went away, travelled for a bit. Obviously he didn't spend as long as he wanted to, but like fair play to him. Like he took the plunge, he went in. I admire that, because again, I don't think I could ever go travelling on my own. Like I just not good.
I think we should just try it with you one day in the future, obviously, for obvious reasons. I'm just going to kidnap you and just take you somewhere.
Just bundle me in a chain. Yeah. I mean, maybe like
explosion therapy, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Just get me really drunk and then just drop me in the middle of nowhere with a passport. But yeah, so on the whole, you're feeling better since being back.
Like I say, there's obviously that bit when I first came back, it was rubbish and stuff. And it's just been, I think we discussed it before, but it's just been a bit of a roller coaster for me. I just every week just feels like something different. Like when I come on here, I can just feel when I'm speaking on this podcast, even, and you've said about how I seem different every time, but I can feel that energy in myself.
Yeah.
But this week's been really quite good. I've been leaning into gratitude a lot. We had that, everyone around here on Saturday, you hosted that lovely evening around here. And it was just I just sat back a couple of times and just thought what a great bunch of friends I've got. Just the things like that, just look at this, man.
Yeah.
So much crap going on out there in the world. And I'm sitting here having nice food and conversations with friends and stuff in a nice house. And it's just and I'm just trying to do that. And it's just been a really, I wouldn't even say massively positive week, but I've just took strides in.
But that is massively positive.
It is, yeah. No, you're right.
I think if we look back, the first episode that we done, you were, I don't know, maybe if I was more aware of it because I was seeing you more, could have doing this, but you were not in a, you weren't in a good space. You weren't in a good place. And I was worried about you. I know that our other friends were worried about you. I look at you now and I think it's a shame that I didn't record you when you were low, if that makes sense, because then you'd be able to see. I know you can feel it, but you'd be able to see yourself in how you've energy. You do seem in a better place, which is a good thing.
It is, yeah. Like I say, I think I'm trying to learn to be okay with myself, which is really tough. It's really tough, especially when I know that my anxiety is still really bad deep down. Like even today, me and my mum went for lunch at Rushden Lakes, and when we got there, she was a bit where should we go then? You choose. And there was that bit of me that was just so drawn to the familiar. I was I do not even want to go. I felt so anxious about even going into a restaurant that I'd never been in before. And I was God, I'd love to live a life where I didn't let little things like that. And the parking situation, I spoke to this about one of our friends, or should I say they brought it up with me, about going places that are going to be busy and being anxious before you go, worrying that you're not going to get a park space. You're going to get park space or not, regardless. If you're going there, it's going to happen or it's not. It's going to be easy or it won't be. But it's you get anxious about it. And I would love to know what life would be like if I just lived like that. Yeah. So I still know that I've got a massive way to go, but I'm recognising it, and I think that can be the first step, is admitting it.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a lie, actually, because I kind of love talking about myself and probably have spoke about it a lot before, but me saying that I suffer from anxiety now has such a different resonance to me than when I would have said it say 10 years ago. Because 10 years ago, even if it was worse, it probably was worse, it would have been like, I wouldn't have said it in such a candid, honest way. It would have been like, yeah, I'll worry about things a little bit. Like, there wouldn't have been that element of truth where now I'm saying, like, I'm fucking anxious and there's nothing to be ashamed about. Like, that's just how I am. And
yeah, and I think this has helped. Like I said to you, like, we spoke, I think maybe about it on Saturday, that I feel now that I can be, because of us doing this and people listen to it, I feel that now I can be myself a bit more. So if I'm having a bad day, like, I don't have to pretend, because people understand you. We had Joe and some friends around the other day, and I just wasn't in a good headspace. I didn't, not that you don't want guests, but I just wasn't in a good headspace. And one of them came and spoke to me, how are you feeling? Like, I heard you say, like, on your podcast, like, you're not feeling great. And my initial thing was, like, well, why has Joe told you that I'm not? And then you think, but you have to say it on a podcast. like, but there was an initial bit, but also it wasn't even, I suppose, that in the moment I was like I suppose my nose was put out of joint and I wasn't happy about it. But also as well, I think it was like people knowing. So like, I don't even know how to word it. Like, I wasn't even annoyed. I was almost taken back by it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because normally you just act like you're okay, so no one knows you're not okay. When someone goes, like, hey, you're not doing too well, it's like, what the?
It's like you've put your walls up and then somebody's poked over and you've been like, what the hell?
Yeah, and straight away it was just like walls up, quiet. So that part of it, like, yeah, I can sit here and it's just me and you.
But forget.
Yeah, you do, because I do forget the mics on, the cameras on. Like, if they could see what we talk about when this microphone's not on.
But it's funny you say that, because I've noticed that sometimes, like, I can be a bit weird because I'll talk to people about my issues and stuff, like in person or I guess on here, but I haven't really had as much interaction about this in that terms. But I found sometimes I'll be really open, and then, like you were kind of saying, I'd almost feel annoyed and offended when people then the next time I spoke to them would ask me if I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's again like an aversion thing. I'm like, if I don't want to talk about that precise moment, like, how dare you ask me about how I'm suffering, because I don't want to talk about this moment, which is very selfish, because it's like they're asking because they care, and I'm being like, but I have found that sometimes I'll literally, one night I'll be speaking to somebody about how shit I feel, and then like 2 days later I'll see them in person, like, how are you feeling now? And be like, I'm fine, what's your problem?
Yeah, and I've noticed that about you as well, like going back, again, no names, you were seeing someone a little while ago, and you were very like, over WhatsApp, you're like, this is the situation, this is how I'm feeling. And then we talk to you in person, but almost, like offended, like we'd asked you, like, and it was, so, and I look at it and go, well, we get annoyed, but I do it as well, do you know what I mean? It is, suppose
maybe it's a little bit as well, like, I suppose in that, because I can think of almost the situation you talk about when you spoke about in person. I wonder if it's almost as well, like, even though I think deep down I do like to be, like, everyone likes to be a centre of attention, like, sometimes I just don't want to be a centre of attention. So I think if, like, people are asking me questions, I'm like, don't want to talk about this. Like,
let's talk about anything apart from that almost. Yeah.
And, but deep down, I think if I was really honest, I guess it's maybe just the whole running away thing, though. It's like, when I want to talk about that's fine, but I don't really want to think about it too often. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it bubbles over and you have to talk about it, but then if it's brought up again, it's like, now I'd rather run away from the subject.
100%.
I don't want to be honest and tell you about how I really feel.
100%.
But excuse me.
This
is the most unprofessional one we've done so far. But
Otherwise, a Monday after work is probably not very flagging a little bit.
Yeah, we'll put it down to that anyway. We're professional, really. We're just doing it for comedy value, you see.
Get the viewers up.
Yeah, we'll make it like a split comedy and mental health
just
podcast.
Have like 5 minutes of stand up in between.
Right, I suppose we should start wrapping up, really. It's bloody flown by again.
It has, it always does. It's good company, mate, that's what it is.
Oh, thanks.
It's good company.
You have had some good company, you're right.
So, Sunday, can have a guest on, all being well.
Ooh.
I'm waiting for them to message me back. So hopefully we'll have a guest on, which will be a good experience.
Have somebody
nice,
on. Yeah. And you don't have to just listen to us.
Yeah, listen to our Dorset tones. Yeah. And obviously you've recorded it now. We've got the camera here, so
I'm hoping to put full videos up soon. I'm having a bit of technical issues with it, kind of. So I've been putting some clips up, which are good to share, I think. With little bits in the
it's good
episodes.
And anybody wants to sponsor us, I say it again, we're always looking for some sponsorship. Hoodies, I like a nice hoodie and a beanie hat for Wayne with
he's wearing indoors.
And anybody that likes our post will get a free packet of Love Heart Sweets.
Don't do that, because you're going to have to follow through with that.
I've got loads of them.
You have to send them out via post.
I'll hand deliver them, it's alright.
But again, like we've said every week, if you do have questions,
please send us some
or stories, then please do. Because it was really interesting. The couple we've had, I think, is really nice to delve into and makes you think a bit about it. Do you know what I mean? I found them good because they made me really think about how I would feel in that situation and empathise and sympathise a little bit. So,
and it makes you realise that you're not. I know we're not the only ones, but it makes you realise you're not the only one. I had someone who came to speak to me at football the other day, who I've never ever had that sort of conversation with, and they came up and said, I see you doing a podcast, asked me why I'm doing it, and I told them, and he was like, I've had my struggles, and sort of spoke to me, and I've said it in that environment where it's, lads, to have that, I've had people come up to me at the pub and say, I love what you're doing, which is all good.
It's nice, that's really good.
We appreciate all the positive. And if you got any negative feedback, I actually did get some not negative feedback, but some feedback.
Told me this.
Someone said to me yesterday, one thing I'd say, whoever's phone it is that keeps going off in the podcast.
What?
I keep looking at my phone. I've had a couple of people say that. So that's why mine's on Do Not Disturb at the moment.
I think we've been good this episode. Sorry, whoever that was.
But I did laugh. I was like, you're not the first person to say that.
Good feedback, to be fair.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yes, we're going to eat loads of sweets.
Yeah.
Get a sugar high. But thanks for listening.
And I'll see you Sunday.
You will indeed. Goodbye, folks.
Give me them sweets.